Hello YouTube, welcome to another one of my Duel Links videos, and today I have for you Habikun's request for June. She asked that I played Madolches with the Rebirth of Parshath counter trap. This is my first time playing Madolches, so I don't know how well I played the deck. It did well. I won quite a bit of duels, but then I also lost a lot because they're not very strong. Their attacks is not amazing, but they do float a lot. You get to keep a lot of card advantage, which helps your counter trap engine. At the beginning I was using the other Madolche counter traps, but they all suck. Like this one says, when a spell trap card is activated, if you have no monsters in your graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, return it to the hand. So they just activate it again, which is not what you want, definitely. And the other one, it was to negate a monster effect, but I also didn't like that one too much. The only thing I like about this is that you can search it with your Messenger Lotto whenever you special summon this off of a Hoot Cake or Mew. So if you special summon this guy off of either one of those, you can add any spell or trap, any Madolche spell or trap. So that's why I added one, just so that I could search it if I already had my Rebirth of Parshath, because you do need a counter trap in your hand along with something to discard, which can be the same thing, in order for you to activate your Rebirth. The other counter traps I added was 2 Ultimate Providence, because we can get spells, we can get traps, obviously, but more importantly, our monsters float, especially once we have the field spell, the Madolche field spell. They'll just come back to your hand, so you'll have a lot of fodder for your Ultimate Providence. And then 2 enemy controllers, because Econ Cheese is great, and especially in a deck like this that you can special summon monsters fairly easily, and just to try to go for game. I'm using What Grows in the Graveyard because that's a pretty strong combo that I've seen people use in this deck with your Hoot Cake. Unfortunately, I only have 2 Hoot Cakes. If I had 3, I would have a third one instead of the 3 Mew. But yeah, you start with a monster in your graveyard, which means you can banish using Hoot Cake's effect to then special summon a monster, which can be any of your Madolches. Most of the time you are going for the Messenger Lotto or your Puttingness. Puttingness is kind of the boss. It has a cool effect, but it has very low attack. If you have a clean graveyard in the field spell, it can get to 23, which is pretty decent, but still very weak in the current meta we see ourselves in. So it says, if this card, after damage calculation, when this card battles an opponent's monster, you can target one card your opponent controls and destroy that target. So the idea is that you're going to be floating your Puttingness. It's going to get destroyed, but you're going to be destroying something. Then it's going to get back to your hand, and then you can special summon it with your Mew or your Hoot Cake. You don't really want a tribute for it because that puts monsters in your graveyard, and you want a clear graveyard for for the boost. But yeah, Mew is just going to special summon a Madolche monster on summon. Most of the time that's going to be your Messenger Lotto, so you can search, or your Puttingness, just to get some board presence. I already went over the field spell. In addition to the monsters coming back to your hand when they hit the graveyard, you get a 500 attack boost. Madolche ticket is also pretty good. It says, when a Madolche card or cards are returned from your side of the field or graveyard to your hand or main deck by a card effect, you can add 1 Madolche monster from your deck to your hand. So you get a lot of card advantage, but what you do with it is the important thing. That's why having the counter traps kind of works, but they're not super strong. If they were stronger, you'd see them at least every once in a while. No one's playing Madolches except me for Habikun. I hope she enjoys this, and so do the rest of you. So let's just get into the replays. Yeah, she originally had a different idea that I couldn't make work, and then she gave me this second idea. And yeah, this one was definitely a lot easier than the last one. So we're going up against Neos. They have a Neos space. and we're going first. So as you can see, this is when I was still running the other traps, but they're just not good. They're really not. I get my Rebirth of Parshat, which is the trap I want. Unfortunately, both of my monsters are gonna get treacherous, so they go back into the deck. If I had my fill spell, they'd be coming back to my hand. I have to rely on my Rebirth. I decide to go ahead and negate this because that's gonna shuffle the Aqua Dolphin into the deck. And even though he can special summon the Neo space, you know, Elemental Hero Neos, he can't summon in attack position, so I'm not worried about that. We get a 26 beater on the board. He goes for the Neo space, the Elemental Hero Neo special summon. But he's forced to just set, so I'm gonna set an enemy controller, attack into an enemy controller. So fair is fair, we both got our econs. I get a Hoot Cake, so now I can banish, special summon the Messenger Lotto, get my field spell, and that pretty much guarantees my victory right there. There was still the chance of him getting a Karibo, but luckily he didn't have one. So that's kind of what your base case scenario is. You want to negate something your opponent is doing so that they're left with a vulnerable board, and then just summon a bunch of monsters and go for game. Here I have Loomis. I don't remember what this was. Same play for us. Oh, this was a weird 6 Samurai deck. So when I saw that this Inishi, I knew there was going to be a 6 style coming. But I had to just kind of push through it because Madolches are not really good on their own. So I was like, I'm just gonna do my searches, get 2 counter traps, you know, try to bait his 6 style. And it kind of works here because he uses the 6 style on the spell and traps. So I force him to use a 6 style and a World Legacy Clash, which is amazing. This is not gonna hurt me that much. I have plenty of life, and he can't even get over my Messenger Lotto. So Hoot Cake is going to come back to our hand. We're going to activate Ticket, set our counter traps, go for the attack. Second World Legacy. So he's saving himself from taking damage, but not really accomplishing much. Meanwhile, we're keeping our card advantage, if not getting more. There's the Econ. No more 6 style for him, so he's just going to take 21 to the face. 6 times United. Gonna try to, Hail Mary a Fuma right there, but we can negate the T-break, and this is like the only time negating a spell is good, because the spell required a tribute, a monster to be tributed from, or sent from the field, and even though it goes back to his hand, the monster stays in the graveyard. But other than that, had that been anything else, it just goes back to his hand for him to activate again. So we got very lucky against that 6 Samurai player, but a win is a win. Next we have Ishizu. What grows in the graveyard? Pretty good starting hand because of the Rebirth. Everything else, it's whatever, but Rebirth alone makes the hand playable. We're going to be going up against a Red Eyes Fusion deck. Luckily, they can't attack, and he didn't have anything to equip, although it wouldn't have mattered because we're still going to negate. So on the activation of the Red Eye Slash, we're going to go ahead and shuffle him back into the deck and get a Arc Knight. To our field, we attack into a Treacherous, which really sucks. We can still deal 1600 there. I was expecting another Red Eyes Fusion. I get very lucky. They don't have it. They use a Cosmic Cyclone and then just scoop. Weevil, my favorite matchup. This was actually gonna be a bad matchup for me because it's Weevil Amazonas. So all my monsters were getting banished by Onslaught, but he kind of committed too much too soon, and then pretty much oofed himself. So one set, one monster, one back row. We have our Hoot Cake. We're gonna special summon Puttingness. And in this scenario, I already had my field spell, which is good. But really, going for the Messenger Gelato wasn't gonna do too much for me. I wanted to get rid of the back row with Puttingness, so that was the thought process right there. We are gonna attack into an Onslaught. He special summons the Amazonas Swordswoman. He had no business doing that, because if he keeps the Amazonas Swordswoman, I guess either way he was kind of screwed. But this way, I'm just gonna get rid of both Amazonas Swordswoman. I'm not gonna destroy the Onslaught because that will just bring another Amazonas Swordswoman into the field. I attack, he probably draws his second Lava Golem, but I only have one monster on the board, so quick scoop. Quick satisfaction scoop. And then this is going to be the last duel against Metaphysis. And this is where you'll see that I subbed in the Ultimate Providence. There you go. So Lupine, pretty good starting hand for my opponent. You know, he's going to do his regular shenanigans, get some searches. That's a Daedalus, so I don't want to special summon too much because my stuff's going to get banished. Hoot Cake is going to special summon the Messenger Gelato. Unfortunately, he does have Treacherous, I believe. Oh no, no Treacherous yet. He has Drowning Mirror Force. I remember he clears my board somehow. But I have an Ultimate Providence that can negate a spell or a trap. And I have my Rebirth, which can negate monster or anything. I could have negated the Tyrant Dragon's effect right here, but because it was already shuffled into the deck, so it's not getting shuffled by my Rebirth, I don't get my monster. Otherwise, I would have negated the effect there, but I'm trying to negate something that's going to put a monster on the board for me. We see the Daedalus. That's not lethal, even if we had to take that damage. But luckily, he does activate the Acid Metaphysis, which is what we're going to negate. And now he's forced to crash into my Parsat. But he loses all the advantage. You don't want these monsters in the graveyard, you want them banished. We send the Acid Metaphysis back into the deck. He's down to just one card. We're gonna top deck the Mew. No reason to spend the summon if we're not gonna get any damage, we're not gonna get any special summon. So we just keep it in hand. Wait for the Hoot Cake to come out. Now we can banish, special summon, and there's the scoop. So yeah, like once they lost the card advantage, it's pretty much an easy game for you. Especially because I had another Providence set up. Or I had a Providence set up. I was going to be able to negate a spell if I wanted to, a monster. The only thing I couldn't negate was a trap, but without, you know, your monster effect or your spell, the Metaphysis Dimension was not a threat at all. So yeah, that's it for the deck list. It was pretty fun to use, but they're unfortunately too weak. Yeah, we don't have as much life points, so you get really hurt when you try to, you know, run your Puttingness into something. And but the deck did as well as I could expect it. I really like this counter trap engine. I mean, you can splash it in a lot of decks that already use counter traps, because your engine is pretty much the 3 Rebirth in the main deck and then 2 in the extra deck. So I might play with this a little bit more, see what other decks we can run them into, other than, you know, counter fairies, obviously. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, like, comment, and subscribe if you want. Join my Discord if you haven't. The link will be down in the description. I look at my PayPal link if you guys want to support my channel, support my content. I really, really appreciate that. And until next time.